everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Mary Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from our two socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. You can find all of our previous works at heartlandmamas.com on all podcast platforms, Demcast USA, and of course, if you want to see us in person, find us on YouTube. So, Murray, today we have some really troubling topic to cover, and we had something else planned for today, and this came up yesterday. It was something that really hurt my heart. It really hit me right in the gut, and I thought, we need to change course and talk about this. So tell everybody what we're talking about today.
Okay. Well, Heidi and I have done several shows about misogyny tsunami, and when the whistleblower complaint for the Irwin Correctional Facility in Georgia was made, it definitely brought attention to both Heidi and I's eyes. It conjured up very different images for each of us, and we'll kind of talk about those a little bit as we go. But the fact that this is a very difficult subject, because there are so many layers to this. If you look at it historically, if you look at it through social justice, if you look at it through profit, mercenary capitalism,
if you look,
it's unimaginable.
Yes,
that in this day and age, no matter who you are, if you are on American soil and you go to a physician for help, that your uterus gets taken out when it doesn't need to. That is straight up ridiculous.
Right. That is straight up butchering. That is straight up butchering and misogyny. And, Murray, coming out of the whistleblower complaint by RN Dawn Wooten was about women entering an ICE facility, that were detained in this ICE facility for illegally immigrating. And so they were sent to Georgia, and they were put in holding cells at a for-profit prison that gets about $58 a day to keep them. They like to spend money.
And we will be doing a for-profit prison show
coming up
to talk about, coming up very soon, to talk about the problems that exist within that system and how mercenary capitalism is feeding it. Continue.
Okay, so
we're going to go into that a bit further.
But part of this issue is that they charge $58 a day or $59 a day, but they only want to spend about $24 a day to keep these people prisoner, these women prisoner. And so you got to cut costs wherever you can. And to me, I think that could be an underlying problem here. But what happened is these women, if they complained of heavy periods and cramps, they were sent to a certain doctor, just one particular doctor, and if they went to that doctor, they came back without a uterus. It was a doctor off
or ovaries.
Or ovaries.
Now remember, they didn't go to. Okay, so I just want to clarify for our listeners. The ICE facility in Irwin is a privately owned detention facility by an organization, LaSalle Corporation. That is one we'll talk about when we go into our private prisons, and the inadequacies of oversight for them. But so just so you know, ICE oversees this facility because they have a contract with LaSalle companies.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll have multiple service providers for everything, for transportation, for logistics, for medical care. They only usually have one or two nurses on site.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to have a doctor on site, so they contract out.
Right.
Now, all the women who have gone to see this one particular doctor for these complaints, there are other physicians out there that provide for the detention center. Those that see this obstetrician
GYN
in Georgia end up with
no uterus.
Wrong ovary taken out, or ovaries taken out, or hysterectomies. In fact, Nurse Wooten made a comment. They called him the uterus collector.
Yep.
This is from this case has been cited. The whistleblower complaint was just brought yesterday, and it was brought to bear by Southern Justice Center. What was it?
Southern Justice Center. But Murray, here's the thing. There's pages and pages and pages of medical inadequacy at this prison, which is pretty common in these for-profit prisons. This issue was on page 18, so it was buried back in there, and the name of the doctor was not released. And Murray and I are in different places on where this doctor came from and this doctor's philosophies. Here's the issue, is these women can never reproduce now. They can never have children. Their childbearing years came to a sudden and rapid halt without every single incident cited was without their permission or without their knowledge. They thought they were getting treatment for their heavy periods, and there's a lot of things you can do for those. The most common is prescribing birth control pills to regulate hormones. Another woman went in with ovarian cysts and had the wrong ovary removed. Usually you do not remove the ovary for that. I had ovarian cysts, Marie, infamously, that exploded the day of the election in 2018. I was in so much pain. I didn't get to go to any of the parties.
Oh, we are having some technical difficulties today, folks, but thanks again for joining us. Sorry we ducked out. We are talking today about the injustice going on with LaSalle Prison Corporation, a private corporation working for ICE, and women having themselves be mutilated. Just to catch you up to speed. So, this topic is very difficult for Heidi and I because we've been very strong advocates for women since we have been born, basically. We are fierce advocates, and this on so many levels is personal and difficult to deal with.
Right.
If you think about our history, women have always been devalued in our society. We were given a little bit of a boost with the whole Revolutionary War, and the role of a woman was important as homemaker and mother, and as we did expansion and colonialism and manifest destiny, the whole nine yards.
Well, you have to reproduce, Marie, for the species to exist. You have to reproduce.
Yeah.
So then, you gotta have women for that.
But when we take a little stroll down history, we see that forced sterilization has been around since the beginning of our nation.
Right. Forced sterilization has been around for our entire existence. And usually it was with indigenous people when we first came to this country, until we decided that the indigenous people also had value as slaves. And
wait, the indigenous people also were human and had feelings and things. Remember, they experimented on them to see if savages were
right.
Right. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, well, savages because they weren't from Europe. This was their land, we were taking it from them, so let's call them savage. And that's a whole other topic of colonialism, which we've covered before. But here's what we've done over the years as a country. We have taken the reproductive rights away from indigenous, black, brown, mentally ill, and women that are unmarried, and disabled women since time began. We even have taken this all the way through the Supreme Court to prove that it's okay to take a woman's reproductive rights away, her ability to reproduce, because she does not meet a certain standard of eugenics. And eugenics are a standard of white race that Hitler bastardized and Mengele bastardized during World War II. And a big reason we went to war. And we didn't realize the atrocities that were going on in Nazi Germany until well after the war. And that's why we are not realizing what is going on in these detention centers until after it's too late, until women have been spayed like a dog and left to her own devices. When there's medical things that can be done that are non-surgical to control heavy bleedings, cramps, heavy periods, and ovarian cysts. We know that because Murray and I have gone through all of that. And this is completely and utterly unacceptable to spay women because you don't like their eugenics. Doesn't meet your standard.
Yeah, so that brings us to another point, though. We talk about it through history, and it happened with the indigenous people, it happened with slaves, it happened with free black women, it happened in California with
Hispanics, Latinx,
community.
yeah.
It happened to a white woman in West Virginia, and that was the case that you alluded to, Heidi.
Right.
Buck v. Bell in 1927.
Because those women had the audacity to have children out of wedlock, so they had to be spayed so it couldn't happen again. And we can't just call it a hysterectomy. They spayed them like you would spay a dog or a cat, period. That's what they did to them. So they couldn't have any more babies, so they couldn't reproduce. And in that Buck v. Bell, that was to end the promiscuity line, the lineage of promiscuity, which was considered a mental illness. I wonder what happened to the man that created that baby. Nothing. Zero, zip, nada. And that's how it always is for women.
Right?
That's how it always is for women. We take the brunt of things.
And women do become the standard bearer of all the responsibility. And giving the control of women's own reproductive health, this goes to a larger issue.
Yes.
Giving women control over their own reproductive health gives them far more freedom and ability to change the destiny of their own life, which then they're no longer controlled.
Right.
And the thing about that Buck v. Bell that just blows my mind is that it still stands on the books today.
I know, Marie.
Well, it was what justice? What was the justice?
Was it Oliver Wendell Holmes? Was the justice, wasn't
Oliver
it?
Wendell Holmes, yes. That his decision was because apparently, her mother had been promiscuous and deemed daft to some men who decided that, or some women who were jealous because their men were interested in her. And that woman had a child out of wedlock. He decided that, we can't allow her to have any more because
no more.
As the justice said, women are, we've had enough feeble-minded generations. 3 generations of the feeble-minded is enough. Deciding that she wasn't good enough. And that falls into eugenics. It's not just a white aspect. It's not, Hitler did create it to be that way, the Aryan race. But eugenics manifests itself in multiple different ways. Poverty. Poverty is a great reason that we've seen our own country perform eugenics.
Right.
So there are so many levels. And again, when we go back and kind of talk about the Buck v. Bell, it's like, it drives me nuts that the law is still on the books.
It drives me nuts that men have never been held accountable for their actions in the whole Buck v. Bell, system.
A small little town in West Virginia. And if you know West Virginia, and this was back in the 1920s, let me tell you something.
Does everybody talk like Foghorn Leghorn?
Probably worse than Foghorn Leghorn. But Heidi, you brought up another point, and I want to kind of steer us here a little bit, if that's okay.
Fine.
So we're talking about this organization, this for-profit, this mercenary capital prison system. Mercenary capitalists running this corporation. You've got the ICE Detention Center guys typically taking executive positions within this corporation. So they're watching, the fox is watching the hen house, so to speak. They contract out with various providers. The one thing that we found interesting was that in all of our research, we couldn't find other cases that had been brought similar to that. Now, we know in Colorado they were monitoring and tracking, one facility was monitoring and tracking a young women, 13 to 19's menstrual cycle.
Right.
We thought that was a little weird. Now we have a facility in Georgia. And we don't know whether it is an isolated doctor who could, like I thought, upon reading it and the way that the doctors had talked about, or the nurses had talked about them and the patients, I did feel flashbacks to Mengele, the stories that I had heard of Mengele. I had flashbacks to Holmes, H.H. Holmes.
Yes.
The serial killer in Chicago. The pathology there seems like if you're a messed up person and you have a chance to be in a position of power like a doctor and you can do what you want without any
no oversight and no repercussions. Nobody. Like nothing. Yeah, you can do anything.
Ideologies just align. Honestly, it could be, hey, these are brown women coming to him. We don't need to have any more brown babies in the world. I'm doing the world a favor. Well, I could do it and it'd be fine.
But
it could also be the mercenary capitalist aspect that you brought up, Heidi.
Well, yeah, and I
care, sacrifice. At what cost for the bottom line of profit?
But Murray, I want to go another direction, because we have not been able to ferret out why these injustices have been done to these women. Is that the LaSalle Corporation that runs these prisons is a family Christian organization? Are they a Christian organization like Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, where you can't have birth control pills? Because all of these women were treated for issues that could have been treated with birth control pills, with hormone therapy.
But that's the thing, and you're right.
Is that why?
Right.
Because
there may be some overlyingness.
Well, because
those types of doctors that adhere to that.
Yep.
Believe it to be, but because we haven't been able to find other cases
yet
run by this company yet. That we can't make that sort of declaration. We have to. I don't know. I'm thinking it's more of a one-off until we get
Murray,
more.
I pray to God that it's a one-off, because sterilizing women against their will or without their permission, and none of these women gave their permission to have this done, according to the complaint. You're preventing these genes from going forward. You're preventing these women from ever being mothers, if they have, they've been separated from their children. You're preventing them from having that type of fulfillment. Now, not every woman wants to have children, but what if she does? What if she did? What if she's got a spouse that's in another prison? What if they decide to do a vasectomy on him and don't tell him? All of these things without oversight at these private prisons are possible and probable. And we know from other violations in this order, in this complaint, that this is not the only place where things have been done to a bizarre standard, a Stephen Miller standard.
This corporation has a ridiculously bad record of prisoners' rights violations in every state that they operated in.
And I realize that
had horrible.
The Stephen Millers of the world, the bigots, the alt-right, feel that this is just desserts for having the wrong color of skin. And you know that as well as I do, Murray. We are staring racism down right now. And it's up to us.
And you mentioned something there, and I kind of want to bring it back to Mengele and Hitler.
Okay.
We were talking in our pre-show. Joseph Mengele, for those of you who don't know, was the doctor who was nicknamed the Butcher in Birkenau and Auschwitz. No, not Auschwitz, Birkenau.
Birkenau.
And he mutilated women, he sterilized women, he performed horrible experiments on gypsies, on twins, on anyone that didn't fit the mold.
He would sew people together. He would sew people together with animals. He would take, he did early uterine transplants. If you put a gypsy uterus into a Jewish woman, would they have a gypsy baby? Well, no, they would die from septicemia, or septic shock. But he didn't care, because next, let's bring somebody else in and see if we can get it to work next time. It was horrible, horrifying.
And part of it is I think oftentimes in history we look at it as if Hitler went out and found Mengele. And
they found
Mengele to be his head of his program. And what you have to remember is it's not that way. Sometimes things align, and when you're a particular type of person, you attract a particular type of people. So Mengele was existing in his own beliefs and his outrageous science ideas far before they ever met. Hitler already had those ideas of racism and the white race and eugenics and the Aryans already had that idea.
Right.
So you get these two, and Hitler's unstable, he was a drug addict, he was an egomaniac, he needed to have his ego fed. So he has these crazy thoughts in his head.
Yeah.
And you find someone with some sort of fake science knowledge, like a Mengele, and they meet. And Mengele feeds this drive for superiority
Right.
with Hitler. And so it becomes a national program. It becomes official experimental. And this happens in our own nation.
Yeah.
So if you think about this.
It's the Stephen Miller to Donald Trump.
Right, well, that part, it seems like a bad idea so that the office administrative assistant doesn't get to talk to the president on a daily basis.
Right.
But there's a reason for that, because you have to make sure you're getting some sort of safe, sane, logical answers.
Right.
So you look at what happened yesterday in this context, and we have a climate denier now heading up the weather and oceanautical. Right, we're not. But I'm saying here's where my head wraps to is. You have this doctor in Georgia, whether it's a policy that they hired him or somebody searched him out, whatever the case is, and he's performing all of these hysterectomies and these procedures. If that guy starts talking a good game to the deputy director of ICE, and how much better it is for them and how low cost, that deputy director is going to talk to Stephen Miller or that deputy director has an equal chance of getting to the president in how disorganized the system is.
The president takes counsel from the MyPillow guy, Marie. How bizarre do you think this is? I don't think you're, just maybe a one-off. Seriously.
I know.
Seriously.
It's terrifying.
MyPillow guy. Oleandrin.
All I'm saying is that, if we look at women in history, they have been overvalued. We've been property. We are not sentient beings.
No.
You put us in situations like Heidi talked about at the beginning where we have no control. Even as a free citizen, you still don't have control over your own body.
Not as a woman, you don't.
Let alone as a prisoner, as a detainee in a capitalist system, and all of this could come down to greed, which is hard for me not to think that all of this doesn't just come down to greed.
Well,
like maybe this doctor gets paid extra for this procedure, and then he doesn't have to deal again. Who knows?
That could be.
But the whole fact of the matter is mercenary capitalism is one of the largest factors in this entire situation. They don't want women out working. They want women to be able to be at home to raise the family and place the value there. They don't want...
wait a minute, Marie. Wait. If that's what you want, why is minimum wage so low? If you want one breadwinner per household, which is the Republican ideology, then you better pay that breadwinner like he's two people. Because that's what you want. You want Beaver Cleaver, June Cleaver, to be running everything. And Beaver Cleaver's mom used to talk about how it was horrible. She had to go home and deal with the fact that she had a family at home after a full day of work playing Beaver's mother. And I'm just saying, Marie, that I think that there's a lot of things in play here. I think that we're just we're just touching the iceberg. I think this is, unfortunately, when we turn and face the horrors that we created, the horrors of humanity that we've created with this ICE situation under this president, when we turn and face it, it's going to be on the level, in a small fraction of the level that we treated slaves, on the level that we treated indigenous people, on the level that we've treated women. Internment camps, the Japanese during World War II, which is horrifying. We have to grow as humanity. And the only way we can grow is to face the horrors and things that we've done to other people in the name of our own version of justice, or one man's version of justice. When this is undone, in about 127 days, when we elect a new president and they start to undo this mess, we're going to have people with profound PTSD. We're going to have profound amounts of children with learning disabilities. We're going to have profound amounts of people without skills to be able to support themselves. And it's going to be up to us in the United States to try to rectify the evil that we've created, including justifying what happened to these women and trying to make up for it. I am appalled. Another day under the Trump administration, and I realize that this is a one-off from him, but this situation was
No,
created
it's
under.
not. I think you're right,
It's
Heidi.
created under
It's
his
not
watch.
necessarily a one-off. Whatever happened, whether that's a one-off or not, this would never have been allowed to happen in any other administration
No.
where corruption wasn't rampant.
Well, it's all about the dollars. It's all about the dollars. And, under the Trump administration. Yeah, mercenary capitalism. Anyway, everybody, we felt this. I felt it internally when I read this story. I was so devastated for these women that are going through this, because now, anybody who knows anybody who's gone through a hysterectomy knows that they're going through horrible hormonal surges as their body tries to cope with this dissection of their body. And
I'm betting they don't get hormonal therapy.
No, they're not going to. And the thing
I'm
is,
guessing. I don't know. I'm just taking a wild guess
I'm
here.
guessing
They're probably
no.
like, let's just let them suffer it out.
Well, exactly, because, they're just women. Anyway, but we'd like to thank you for watching today. Be sure and catch us.
Join us!
Yeah.
On Thursday for another live show. It's going to be rockingly amazing. We will also have more in our misogyny tsunami coming up. And we will be doing a deep dive into the for-profit prison system.
Yeah.
Particularly a lovely little company called LaSalle Corporation.
We are going to talk about LaSalle Corporation. Totally, utterly appalled by what I've read just since yesterday.
Tuesdays and Thursdays live at 2
o'clock.
to see us in Uterus. Also tune into our candidate series. There are some amazing folks out there that really could use your help, support, like, and share. So be sure to tune in. Check us out on YouTube for all past episodes, our website,
Heartland.
Anywhere you get your favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
Demcast USA and
Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.